Hello, I'm Nicolette Pomba-Van-Zyl, editor of ESI Africa magazine, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio. Today I have Rentia from Tonder with me, who is the head of power at Standard Bank. Welcome, Rentia.
Hi, Nicolette. Nice to be
Rentia, I
here.
believe that you had colleagues that went to Nigeria recently, and they came back with some information about what's happening in that country. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, we as Standard Bank are quite relevant in all these countries. So we're in 20 different African countries. And what we do is we do engage with our colleagues there quite often. And what we found is that it's quite an interesting market. Although there's a lot of activity and a major need for power, it's still difficult to do some of these transactions and projects. After we've closed Azura, the gas IPP project, we've seen that there's a lot more push towards an IPP structure. However, what we found when we tried to look at more viability in terms of projects, that it is difficult to develop these, and that may be a footprint going forward. But one of the key trends that we are looking at as a bank is the off-grid opportunities that we do see in these type of markets where it's difficult to take sovereign risk from a bank's point of view in some cases.
And that would include extending the rural electrification in various countries. And as you say, it is very difficult to fund those projects because of perceived risks. And that would include a lot of renewable energy, which is something that is coming to the fore at the moment. What have you seen around that sector?
In renewable energy, and I'm talking across Africa, we've seen a lot of appetite, a lot of countries trying to see how they can fast track the development of renewable energy, especially on the back of South Africa and what we've achieved. I think a lot of people believe that because it's a modular type of technology, it's much easier to implement. And Africa got an abundance of sun, so especially solar. We've seen a lot of developments. If I can pinpoint a few countries, solar and wind, mainly in Kenya. We're looking at solar developments in Namibia, also in Mozambique at this point in time. And then you have other countries popping up with quite significant programs or commitment. For example, Ghana. There's also Tanzania and Zambia, where we see the IFC with the World Bank putting a scaling solar program together where potentially, could be used in other countries to unlock value.
Right. So the funding of these projects, there's been some innovation around how we fund these projects. Can you share a bit with us?
Funding of power projects have always been a challenge because it takes time, especially project finance. What we find is that there are certain trends that we see being unlocked in the US and in Europe. You will see big utility scale projects being funded through a construction loan with a bond takeout. We haven't seen that yet in South Africa, but that is something that we are working on as a bank to see how we can be more innovative. Because if you can structure a project in a better way to optimize your returns, the client's returns, and know that you've got a secure sponsor, it's always better to see how you can bring in various funders.
So the commercial banks are starting to enter that space.
Yeah, I think if you got comfortable with the program and comfortable with the technology, and you know that you've got competent partners, a commercial bank will follow suit, and that is what we see in South Africa. It's really a good program, and we can do much more going into Africa.
Right. So lastly, our conversations that you've had here at African Utility Week, what has surprised you about the questions that are coming up around finance?
I think Africa Utility Week has always been interesting because you meet not only private sector, but you need to meet the utilities. And we've participated in a CEO forum where we had some discussions with them. And I think there's a lot of universal challenges in Africa, and that's what really transpired. What you experience in one country is not unique. And the discussion you have is that there are definitely pockets of excellence, and you can learn from each other. So it's that coherence in trying to find a way to make things work and to succeed.
And so it's definitely that private sector and public sector needs to engage on this kind of level more often.
Yes, and leverage on each other on how to actually develop the sector more successfully.
Rentia, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. I'm Nicolette Pomba-Van-Zyl, editor of ESI Africa magazine, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio.